empire of The Empire Strikes Back. That is a type 3 civilization, which is truly galactic. Now, by the time you reach type 2, you are immortal. Nothing known to science can destroy a type 2 civilization. Comets, meteors, earthquakes, even a supernova. A type 2 civilization would be able to survive even a supernova. The danger is the transition between type 0 and type 1. And that is where we are today.
Female child or a woman is an adult female woman. A woman is an adult female human. 1, 2. Prior to adulthood, a female human is referred to as a girl, a female child, or adolescent. 3. The plural women is sometimes used in certain phrases, such as women's rights to denote female humans regardless of age. A woman. Typically, women have 2 X chromosomes and are capable of pregnancy and giving birth from puberty until menopause. Female anatomy, as distinguished from male anatomy, includes the fallopian tubes, ovaries, uterus, vulva, Skene's glands, and Bartholin's glands. Throughout human history, traditional gender roles have often defined and limited women's activities and opportunities. Many religious doctrines stipulate certain rules for women. With restrictions loosening during the 20th century in many societies, women have gained access to careers beyond the traditional homemaker, and the ability to pursue higher education. Violence against women, whether within families or in communities, has a long history and is primarily committed by men. Some women are denied reproductive rights. The movements and ideologies of feminism have a shared goal of achieving gender equality. Trans women have a male sex assignment at birth that does not align with their gender identity, while intersex women may have sex characteristics that do not fit typical notions of female biology. Etymology. The spelling of woman in English has progressed over the past millennium from Whiffman, for, to women to woman, and finally, the modern spelling woman, 5. In Old English, Whiffman meant woman, literally woman person, whereas wer meant man. Man had a gender-neutral meaning of human, corresponding to modern English person or someone. However, subsequent to the Norman conquest, man began to be used more in reference to male human, and by the late 13th century it had begun to eclipse usage of the older term wer. 6. The medial labial consonants f and m in Whiffman coalesced into the modern form woman, while the initial element whiff, which had also meant woman, underwent semantic narrowing to the sense of a married woman, wife. It is a popular misconception that the term woman is etymologically connected to womb. 7. Womb derives from the Old English word wom meaning belly, uterus. 8. Cognate to the modern German colloquial term wom. From Old High German womma for belly, paunch, lap. 9, 10. Terminology. Womanhood is the period in a human female's life after she has passed through childhood, puberty, and adolescence. 11. Different countries have different laws, but age 18 is frequently considered the age of majority, the age at which a person is legally considered an adult. The word woman can be used generally, to mean any female human, or specifically, to mean an adult female human as contrasted with girl. The word girl originally meant young person of either sex in English wink with a frown. 12. It was only around the beginning of the 16th century that it came to mean specifically a female child. 13. The term girl is sometimes used colloquially to refer to a young or unmarried woman. However, during the early 1970s, feminists challenged such use because the use of the word to refer to a fully grown woman may cause offense. In particular, previously common terms such as office girl are no longer widely used. Conversely, in certain cultures which link family honor with female virginity, the word girl, or its equivalent in other languages, is still used to refer to a never-married woman. In this sense it is used in a fashion roughly analogous to the more or less obsolete English maid or maiden. There are various words used to refer to the quality of being a woman. The term womanhood merely means the state of being a woman, having passed the menarche. Femininity is used to refer to a set of typical female qualities associated with a certain attitude to gender roles. Womanliness is like femininity. but is usually associated with a different view of gender roles. Distaff is an archaic adjective derived from women's conventional role as a spinner, now used only as a deliberate archaism. Menarche, the onset of menstruation, occurs on average at age 12 to 13. Many cultures have rites of passage to symbolize a girl's coming of age, such as confirmation in some branches of Christianity, 14, bat mitzvah in Judaism, or a custom of a special celebration for a certain birthday, generally between 12 and 21, like the quinceañera of Latin America. Trans women have a male sex assignment at birth that does not align with their gender identity, while intersex women may have sex characteristics that do not fit typical notions of female. Biology, 1516. History. The earliest women whose names are known through archaeology include Nephotep, circa 3200 BCE, the wife of Narmer and the first queen of ancient Egypt, 1718. Mernith, circa 3000 BCE, consort and regent of ancient Egypt during the First Dynasty. She may have been ruler of Egypt in her own right, 1920. Merita, circa 2700 BCE, also lived in Egypt, and is the earliest known female physician and scientist. 21. Peshet, circa 2600 BCE, a physician in ancient Egypt. 23. Twabi, circa 2600 BCE, or Shubad, queen of Uar whose tomb was discovered with many expensive artifacts. Other known pre-Sargonic queens of Uar, royal wives, include Ashuzakildager, Ninbanda, and Gansamanu, 24. Kugba, circa 2500 BCE, a Taverness from Kish chosen by the Nippur priesthood to become hegemonic ruler of Sumer, and in later ages deified as Kababa. Tashlultum, circa 2400 BCE, Akkadian queen, wife of Sargon of Akkad and mother of Enheduanna, 25-26. Baranamtara, circa 2384 BCE, prominent and influential queen of Lugalanda of Lagash. Other known pre-Sargonic queens of the first Lagash dynasty include Menbarabzu, Ashurmaran, Ninkilisug, Dimter, and Shag, and the names of several princesses are also known. In Hejuana, c. 2285 BCE, 2728, the high priestess of the temple of the moon god in the Sumerian city-state of Uar and possibly the first known poet and first named author of either gender, 29. Shibtu, circa 1775 BCE, King Zimrilim's consort and queen of the Syrian city-state of Mari. During her husband's absence, she ruled as regent of Mari, and enjoyed extensive administrative powers as queen, 30. Biology.
Female reproductive system. Spectral karyotype of a human female. Photograph of an adult female human, with an adult male for comparison. Note that the pubic hair of both models is removed. In terms of biology, the female sex organs are involved in the reproductive system, whereas the secondary sex characteristics are involved in breastfeeding children and attracting a mate. 31, 32. The ovaries, in addition to their regulatory function of producing hormones, produce female gametes called ova which, when fertilized by male gametes, sperm, form new genetic individuals. The uterus is an organ with tissue to protect and nurture the developing fetus, and muscle to expel it when giving birth. Apocrine-like glands to produce milk, and nutritious secretion, that is the most distinctive characteristic of mammals, along with live birth. 35. In mature women the breast is generally more prominent than in most other mammals. This prominence, not necessary for milk production, is thought to be at least partially the result of sexual selection. 32. Normally cells from females contain two X chromosomes, and cells from males contain an X and a Y chromosome. 36. During early fetal development, embryo morphology of both sexes is similar until about week 6 or 7 when gonads differentiate into testes in males due to the action of the Y chromosome. Sex differentiation proceeds in females in a way that is independent of gonadal hormones. 37. Because humans inherit mitochondrial DNA only from the mother's ovum, genealogical researchers can trace maternal lineage far back in time. The Life and Age of Woman, Stages of Woman's Life from the Cradle to the Grave, 1849. Although fewer females than males are born, the ratio is around 1:5. Newborn girls are more likely to reach their first birthday than are boys, and women typically have a longer life expectancy of 6 to 8 years, although in some areas gender-based discrimination against women has lowered female life expectancy to lower or equal to that of males. Out of the total human population in 2015, there were 101.8 men for every 100 women. The life expectancy differences are partly due to inherent biological advantages, but they also reflect behavioral differences between men and women. The gap is narrowing to some extent in some developed countries, possibly due to increased smoking among women and declining rates of cardiovascular disease among men. The World Health Organization writes that it is important to note that the extra years of life for women are not always lived in good health. 38, 39, 40. Woman nursing her infant. Puberty is the process of physical changes by which a child's body matures into an adult body capable of sexual reproduction to enable fertilization. It usually takes place between the ages 10 to 16. It is initiated by hormonal signals from the brain to the gonads, either the ovaries or the testes. In response to the signals, the gonads produce hormones that stimulate libido and the growth, function, and transformation of the brain, bones, muscle, blood, skin, hair, breasts, and sexual organs. Physical growth, height and weight, accelerates in the first half of puberty and is completed when the child has developed an adult body. The major landmark of girls' puberty is menarche, the onset of menstruation, which occurs on average between ages 12, 13, 41, 42, 43, 44. Most girls go through menarche and are then able to become pregnant and bear children. This generally requires internal fertilization of her eggs with the sperm of a man through sexual intercourse, though artificial insemination or the surgical implantation of an existing embryo is also possible. See reproductive technology. Health. Pregnant woman. There are some diseases that primarily affect women, such as lupus. Also, there are some sex-related illnesses that are found more frequently or exclusively in women, example, breast cancer, cervical cancer, or ovarian cancer. Women and men may have different symptoms of an illness and may also respond to medical treatment differently. This area of medical research is studied by gender-based medicine. 45. The study of female reproduction and reproductive organs is called gynecology. 46. The issue of women's health has been taken up by many feminists, especially where reproductive health is concerned. Women's health is positioned within a wider body of knowledge cited by, amongst others, the World Health Organization, which places importance on gender as a social determinant of health. 47. Maternal mortality, or maternal death, is defined by who as the death of a woman while pregnant, or within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration and site of the pregnancy, from any cause related to or aggravated by the pregnancy, or its management, but not from accidental or incidental causes. 48. In 2008, noting that each year more than 100,000 women die of complications of pregnancy and childbirth, and at least 7 million experience serious health problems, while 50 million more have adverse health consequences after childbirth, the World Health Organization urged midwife training to strengthen maternal and newborn health services. To support the upgrading of midwifery skills, the WHO established a midwife training program, Action for Safe Motherhood. 49. About 99% of maternal deaths occur in developing countries. More than half of them occur in sub-Saharan Africa, and almost one-third in South Asia. The main causes of maternal mortality include preeclampsia and eclampsia, unsafe abortion, pregnancy complications from malaria and HIV/AIDS, and severe bleeding and infections following childbirth. 50. most European countries, Australia, Japan, and Singapore are very safe in regard to childbirth. 51. In 1990, the U.S. ranked 12th of the 14 developed countries that were analyzed, and since that time the death rates of every country have steadily improved, while the U.S. rate has spiked dramatically. While the others that were analyzed in 1990 show a 2017 death rate of fewer than 10 deaths per every 100,000 live births, the U.S. rate rose to 26.4. Furthermore, for every one of the 700 to 900 women who die in the U.S. each year during pregnancy or childbirth, 70 experience significant complications, totaling more than 1% of all births. 52, 53. Reproductive rights and freedom. A poster from a 1921 eugenics conference displays the U.S. states that had implemented sterilization legislation. Reproductive rights are legal rights and freedoms relating to reproduction and reproductive health. The International Federation of Gynecology and Obstetrics has stated that, 54. The human rights of women include their right to have control over and decide freely and responsibly on matters related to their sexuality, including sexual and reproductive health, free of coercion, discrimination, and violence. Equal relationships between women and men in matters of sexual relations and reproduction, including full respect for the integrity of the person, require mutual respect, consent, and shared responsibility for sexual behavior and its consequences. The World Health Organization reports that based on data from 2010 to 2014, 56 million induced abortions occurred worldwide each year, 25% of all pregnancies. Of those, about 25 million were considered as unsafe. The WHO reports that in developed regions about 30 women die for every 100,000 unsafe abortions, and that number rises to 220 deaths per 100,000 unsafe abortions in developing regions and 520 deaths per 100,000 unsafe abortions in sub-Saharan Africa. The WHO ascribes these deaths to restrictive laws, poor availability of services, high cost, stigma, conscientious objection of healthcare providers, unnecessary requirements, such as mandatory waiting periods, mandatory counseling, provision of misleading information, third-party authorization, and medically unnecessary tests that delay care. 55. Culture and gender roles. A woman weaving. Textile work is traditionally and historically a female occupation in many cultures. In recent history, gender roles have changed greatly. At some earlier points in history, children's occupational aspirations starting at a young age differed according to gender. 56. Traditionally, middle-class women were involved in domestic tasks emphasizing child care. For poor women, especially working-class women, although this often remained an ideal, economic necessity compelled them to seek employment outside the home. Many of the occupations that were available to them were lower in pay than those available to men. As changes in the labor market for women came about, availability of employment changed from only dirty, long-hour factory jobs to cleaner, more respectable office jobs where more education was demanded. Women's participation in the U.S. labor force rose from 6% in 1900 to 23% in 1923. These shifts in the labor force led to changes in the attitudes of women at work, allowing for the revolution, which resulted in women becoming career and education-oriented. During World War II, some women performed roles which would otherwise have been considered male jobs by the culture of the time. In the 1970s, many female academics, including scientists, avoided having children. Throughout the 1980s, institutions tried to equalize conditions for men and women in the workplace. Even so, the inequalities at home hampered women's opportunities. Professional women were still generally considered responsible for domestic labor and child care, which limited the time and energy they could devote to their careers. Until the early 20th century, U.S. women's colleges required their women faculty members to remain single, on the grounds that a woman could not carry on two full-time professions at once. According to Stiebinger, being a scientist and a wife and a mother is a burden in society that expects women more often than men to put family ahead of career. p. 93.57. Movements advocate equality of opportunity for both sexes and equal rights irrespective of gender. Through a combination of economic changes and the efforts of the feminist movement, in recent decades women in many societies have gained access to careers beyond the traditional homemaker. Despite these advances, modern women in Western society still face challenges in the workplace as well as with the topics of education, violence, healthcare, politics, and motherhood, and others. Sexism can be a main concern and barrier for women almost anywhere, though its forms, perception, and gravity vary between societies and social classes. There has been an increase in the endorsement of egalitarian gender roles in the home by both women and men, 58. Although a greater number of women are seeking higher education, their salaries are often less than those of men. CBS News said in 2005 that in the United States women, who are ages 30 to 44, and hold a university degree make 62% of what similarly qualified men do, a lower rate than in all but 3 of the 19 countries for which numbers are available. Some Western nations with greater inequality in pay are Germany, New Zealand and Switzerland, 59. Violence against women. A campaign against female genital mutilation, a road sign near Kapchorwa, Uganda. The UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women defines violence against women as frowny face 60, any act of gender-based violence that results in, or is likely to result in, physical, sexual, or mental harm, or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. And identifies 3 forms of such violence, that which occurs in the family, that which occurs within the general community, and that which is perpetrated or condoned by the state. It also states that violence against women is a manifestation of historically unequal power relations between men and women. 61. Violence against women remains a widespread problem, fueled, especially outside the West, by patriarchal social values, lack of adequate laws, and lack of enforcement of existing laws. Social norms that exist in many parts of the world hinder progress towards protecting women from violence. For example, according to surveys by UNICEF, the percentage of women aged 15 to 49 who think that a husband is justified in hitting or beating his wife under certain circumstances is as high as 90% in Afghanistan and Jordan, 87% in Mali, 86% in Guinea and Timor, Lest 81% in Laos and 80% in the Central African Republic. Specific forms of violence that affect women include female genital mutilation, sex trafficking, forced prostitution, forced marriage, rape, sexual harassment, honor killings, acid throwing, and dowry-related violence. Governments can be complicit in violence against women, such as when stoning is used as a legal punishment, mostly for women accused of adultery. 64. There have also been many forms of violence against women, which have been prevalent historically, notably the burning of witches, the sacrifice of widows, such as scythe and foot binding. The prosecution of women accused of witchcraft has a long tradition. For example, during the early modern period, between the 15th and 18th centuries, witch trials were common in Europe and in the European colonies in North America. Today, there remain regions of the world, such as parts of sub-Saharan Africa, rural North India, and Papua New Guinea, where belief in witchcraft is held by many people, and women accused of being witches are subjected to serious violence. 65, 66, 67. In addition, there are also countries which have criminal legislation against the practice of witchcraft. It is also the case that certain forms of violence against women There have also been many forms of violence against women, which have been prevalent historically, notably the burning.
But if you get a calculator, you can calculate when we will attain type 1 status.
Social values, lack of adequate law. Violence against women remains a widespread problem, fueled, especially outside the West, by patriarchal social values, lack of adequate laws, and lack of enforcement of existing laws. Social norms that exist in many parts of the world hinder progress towards protecting women from violence. For example, according to surveys by UNICEF, the percentage of women aged 15 to 49 who think that a husband is justified in hitting or beating his wife under certain circumstances is as high as 90% in Afghanistan and Jordan, 87% in Mali, 86% in Guinea and Timor Leste, 81% in Laos, and 80% in the Central African Republic. Specific forms of violence that affect women include female genital mutilation, sex trafficking, forced prostitution, forced marriage, rape, sexual harassment, honor killings, acid throwing, and dowry-related violence. Governments can be complicit in violence against women, such as when stoning is used as a legal punishment, mostly for women accused of adultery. 64. There have also been many forms of violence against women which have been prevalent historically, notably the burning of witches, the sacrifice of widows, such as sati and foot binding. The prosecution of women accused of witchcraft has a long tradition. For example, during the early modern period, between the 15th and 18th centuries, witch trials were common in Europe and in the European colonies in North America. Today, there remain regions of the world, such as parts of sub-Saharan Africa, rural North India, and Papua New Guinea, where belief in witchcraft is held by many people, and women accused of being witches are subjected to serious violence. 65, 66, 67. In addition, there are also countries which have criminal legislation against the practice of witchcraft. It is also the case that certain forms of violence against women have been recognized as criminal offenses only during recent decades, and are not universally prohibited, in that many countries continue to allow them. This is especially the case with marital rape. 71. In the Western world, there has been a trend towards ensuring gender equality within marriage and prosecuting domestic violence. But in many parts of the world, women still lose significant legal rights when entering a marriage. 72. Sexual violence against women greatly increases during times of war and armed conflict, during military occupation or ethnic conflicts, most often in the form of war rape and sexual slavery. Contemporary examples of sexual violence during war include rape during the Armenian Genocide, rape during the Bangladesh Liberation War, rape in the Bosnian War, rape during the Rwandan Genocide, and rape during Second Congo War. Laws and policies on violence against women vary by jurisdiction. In the European Union, sexual harassment and human trafficking are subject to directives. 75, 76. Clothing, fashion and dress codes. Women's clothing varies highly in different cultures. From left to right, Afghan women wearing burqas, Japanese women wearing kimonos, and German women in casual tank tops and miniskirts. Women in different parts of the world dress in different ways, with their choices of clothing being influenced by local culture, religious tenets, traditions, social norms, and fashion trends, amongst other factors. Different societies have different ideas about modesty. However, in many jurisdictions, women's choices in regard to dress are not always free, with laws limiting what they may or may not wear. This is especially the case in regard to Islamic dress. While certain jurisdictions legally mandate such clothing, the wearing of the headscarf, other countries forbid or restrict the wearing of certain hijab attire, such as burqa/covering the face, in public places. One such country is France. See French ban on face covering. These laws, both those mandating and those prohibiting certain articles of dress, are highly controversial. 77. Fertility and family life. Mother and child, in Bhutan. Map of countries by fertility rate, 2020, according to the Population Reference Bureau. Percentage of births to unmarried women, selected countries, 1980 and 2007, 78. The total fertility rate, TFR, the average number of children born to a woman over her lifetime differs significantly between different regions of the world. In 2016, the highest estimated TFR was in Niger, 6.62 children born per woman, and the lowest in Singapore, 0.82 children/woman. 79. While most sub-Saharan African countries have a high TFR, which creates problems due to lack of resources and contributes to overpopulation, most Western countries currently experience a sub-replacement fertility rate which may lead to population aging and population decline. In many parts of the world, there has been a change in family structure over the past few decades. For instance, in the West, there has been a trend of moving away from living arrangements that include the extended family to those which only consist of the nuclear family. There has also been a trend to move from marital fertility to non-marital fertility. Children born outside marriage may be born to cohabiting couples or to single women. While births outside marriage are common and fully accepted in some parts of the world, in other places they are highly stigmatized, with unmarried mothers facing ostracism, including violence from family members, and in extreme cases even honor killings. 81. In addition, sex outside marriage remains illegal in many countries, such as Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, 82, Afghanistan, 83, 84, Iran, 84, Kuwait, 85, Maldives, 86, Morocco, 87, Oman, 88, Mauritania, 89, United Arab Emirates, 90, 91, Sudan, 92, and Yemen, 93. The social role of the mother differs between cultures. In many parts of the world, women with dependent children are expected to stay at home and dedicate all their energy to child raising, while in other places mothers most often return to paid work. See working mother and stay-at-home mother. Religion. Particular religious doctrines have specific stipulations relating to gender roles, social and private interaction between the sexes, appropriate dressing attire for women, and various other issues affecting women and their position in society. In many countries, these religious teachings influence the criminal law, or the family law of those jurisdictions, see Sharia law. For example, the relation between religion, law and gender equality has been discussed by international organizations. 94. Education. Single-sex education has traditionally been dominant and is still highly relevant. Universal education, meaning state-provided primary and secondary education independent of gender, is not yet a global norm, even if it is assumed in most developed countries. In some Western countries, women have surpassed men at many levels of education. For example, in the United States in 2005/2006, women earned 62% of associate degrees, 58% of bachelor's degrees, 60% of master's degrees, and 50% of doctorates. 95, 96. Women attending an adult literacy class in the El Alto section of La Paz, Bolivia. A female biologist weighs a desert tortoise before release. The Educational Gender Gap in Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, countries has been reduced over the last 30 years. Younger women today are far more likely to have completed a tertiary qualification. In 19 of the 30 OECD countries, more than twice as many women aged 25 to 34 have completed tertiary education than have women aged 55 to 64. In 21 of 27 OECD countries with comparable data, the number of women graduating from university-level programs is equal to or exceeds that of men. 15-year-old girls tend to show much higher expectations for their careers than boys of the same age. 97. While women account for more than half of university graduates in several OECD countries, they receive only 30% of tertiary degrees granted in science and engineering fields, and women account for only 25% to 35% of researchers in most OECD countries. 98. Research shows that while women are studying at prestigious universities at the same rate as men, they are not being given the same chance to join the faculty. Sociologist Harriet Zuckerman has observed that the more prestigious an institute is, the more difficult and time-consuming it will be for women to obtain a faculty position there. In 1989, Harvard University tenured its first woman in chemistry, Cynthia Friend, and in 1992 its first woman in physics, Melissa Franklin. She also observed that women were more likely to hold their first professional positions as instructors and lecturers, while men are more likely to work first in tenure positions. According to Smith and Tang, as of 1989, 65% of men and only 40% of women held tenured positions, and only 29% of all scientists and engineers employed as assistant professors in four-year colleges and universities were women. 99. In 1992, women earned 9% of the PhDs awarded in engineering, but only 1% of those women became professors. In 1995, 11% of professors in science and engineering were women. In relation, only 311 deans of engineering schools were women, which is less than 1% of the total. Even in psychology, a degree in which women earn the majority of PhDs, they hold a significant amount of fewer tenured positions, roughly 19% in 1994, 100. Literacy. World literacy is lower for Africa. Women in politics.
Earthquakes, volcanoes, anything planetary we will play with. The danger period is now, because we still have the
Politics.
we still have all the passion.
Politics. Women in politics. Women in politics. Women in politics. Africa. 1. World literacy is lower for females than for males. The CIA World Factbook presents an estimate from 2010, which shows that 80% of women are literate, compared to 88.6%.
World literacy is lower for females than for males. The CIA World Factbook presents an estimate from 2010, which shows that 80% of women are literate, compared to 88.6% of men, aged 15 and over. Literacy rates are lowest in South and West Asia, and in parts of Sub-Saharan Africa. 101. Women in politics. A world map showing female governmental participation by country, 2010. Benazir Bhutto was the first woman to head a democratic government in a Muslim-majority country, Pakistan. Angela Merkel earned the top spot on the Forbes list of most powerful women in the world for 9 years, 102. Women are underrepresented in government in most countries. In January 2019, the global average of women in national assemblies was 24.3%. 103. Suffrage is the civil right to vote, and women's suffrage movements have a long historic timeline. For example, women's suffrage in the United States was achieved gradually, first at state and local levels in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, then in 1920 when women in the U.S. received universal suffrage with the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Some Western countries were slow to allow women to vote, notably Switzerland, where women gained the right to vote in federal elections in 1971, and in the canton of Appenzell-Innerrhoden women were granted the right to vote on local issues only in 1991, when the canton was forced to do so by the Federal Supreme Court of Switzerland. 104. Science, literature and art. German composer Clara Schumann in 1878. Women have, throughout history, made contributions to science, literature and art. One area where women have been permitted most access historically was that of obstetrics and gynecology. Prior to the 18th century, caring for pregnant women in Europe was undertaken by women. From the mid-18th century onwards, medical monitoring of pregnant women started to require rigorous formal education, to which women did not generally have access, and thus the practice was largely transferred to men. 106, 107. Writing was generally also considered acceptable for upper-class women, although achieving success as a female writer in a male-dominated world could be very difficult. As a result of several women writers adopted a male pen name, e.g. George Sand, George Eliot. Women have been composers, songwriters, instrumental performers, singers, conductors, music scholars, music educators, music critics/music journalists, and other musical professions. There are music movements, events and genres related to women, women's issues, and feminism. American singer Ella Fitzgerald in 1968. Women comprise a significant proportion of instrumental soloists in classical music, and the percentage of women in orchestras is increasing. A 2015 article on concerto soloists in major Canadian orchestras, however, indicated that 84% of the soloists with the orchestra Symphonique de Montreal were men. In 2012, women still made up just 6% of the top-ranked Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. Women are less common as instrumental players in popular music genres such as rock and heavy metal, although there have been a number of notable female instrumentalists and all-female bands. Women are particularly underrepresented in extreme metal genres. 108. Women are also underrepresented in orchestral conducting, music criticism/music journalism, music producing, and sound engineering. According to Jessica Duquesne, a music writer for London's The Independent, women musicians in classical music are too often judged for their appearances, rather than their talent, and they face pressure to look sexy on stage and in photos. 110. Duquesne states that while here are women musicians who refuse to play on their looks, the ones who do tend to be more materially successful. 110. According to the UK's Radio 3 editor, Edwina Wollstonecraft, the classical music industry has long been open to having women in performance or entertainment roles, but women are much less likely to have positions of authority, such as being the leader of an orchestra. 111. In popular music, while there are many women singers recording songs, there are very few women behind the audio console acting as music producers, the individuals who direct and manage the recording process. 112. Gender symbol. The glyph, female sign, for the planet and Roman goddess Venus, or Aphrodite in Greek, is the symbol used in biology for the female sex. 113, 114, 115. In ancient alchemy, the Venus symbol stood for copper, and was associated with femininity. 115. Femininity. Femininity, also called womanliness or girlishness, is a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles generally associated with women and girls. Although femininity is socially constructed, 116, some behaviors considered feminine are biologically influenced. 117, 118, 119, 120. To what extent femininity is biologically or socially influenced is subject to debate. 121, 122, 123. It is distinct from the definition of the biological female sex. 124, 125, as both males and females can exhibit feminine traits. Portrait of Charlotte Duval d'Ognes, 1801, Metropolitan Museum of Art, painted by Marie-Denise Villers. Possibly a self-portrait, depicts an independent feminine spirit. 6. See also: lists of women, man, medical, feminine psychology, sex differences, sex assignment dynamics, femininity, feminization, sociology, misogyny, matriarchy, sexism, sociological, feminism, women's studies. References.
We have all the sectarian fundamentalist ideas circulating around, but we also have nuclear weapons. We have chemical, bio.
Whiffman, Bosworth and Toller, Anglo-Saxon Dictionary, Oxford, 1898 to 1921, p. 1219. The spelling Whiffman also occurs. C.T. Onions, Oxford Dictionary of English Etymology, Oxford, 1966, p. 1011. 5 Webster's New World Dictionary, 2nd College Edition, Entry for Woman. Man, http://dictionary.reference.com/search?q=man, definition dictionary.reference.com. 7. Stanton, Elizabeth Cady, 2002. The Book of Genesis, Chapter 2. The Woman's Bible, a classic feminist perspective. https://books.google.com/books?id=hit pfbgwnr0c. Mineola, New York, Dover Publications. Pages 21 to 22. ISBN 978-0486424910. Next comes the naming of the mother of the race. She shall be called woman, in the ancient form of the word womb man. She was man and more than man because of her maternity. Originally published in 2 volumes, 1895 and 1898, by the European Publishing Company. Womb, N. https://www.ediomonline.com/word/womb. Online Etymology Dictionary. Retrieved August 29, 2019. S. Starostin. Germanic etymology, *1 and base name =d@/ie/Germat and text_number =%20562. The Tower of Babel. Kluge, Friedrich, 1891. An etymological dictionary of the German language. https://archive.org/details/etymologicaldict00clugwath/page/384. London, George Bell and Sons. p. 384. Archived from the original, https://archive.org/details/etymologicaldict, on November 1, 2007. Translated by John Francis Davis, D. Little, M.A. Aline, Richard, June 13, 2010. Girls now reaching puberty before 10, a year sooner than 20 years ago, year sooner than 20 years ago. HTML. Daily Telegraph. ISSN 0307-1235. https://www.worldcat.org/ISSN/0307-1235. Retrieved June 2, 2019. Used in Middle English from circa 1300, meaning a child of either sex, a young person. Its derivation is uncertain, perhaps from an Old English word which has not survived. Another theory is that it developed from Old English gyrila, meaning dress, apparel, or was a diminutive form of a borrowing from another West Germanic language. Middle Low German has gor, meaning girl or small child. Girl, N. OED Online. September 2013. Oxford University Press. September 13, 2013. By late 14th century a distinction was arising between female children, often called gay girls, and male, or knave girls. A 1375 William of Palerne, 1867, L. 816 1 gay girls were into garden come, fair flowers I found. When the gay girls came into the garden, fair flowers they found. By the 16th century, the unsupported word had begun to mean specifically a female. 1546 J. Haywood Dialogue Proverbs eng tongue ix, sigd, the boy thy husband, and now the girl his wife. The usage meaning child of either sex survived much longer in Irish English. Girl, N. OED Online. September 2013. Oxford University Press. September 13, 2013. BBC Religions Christianity, Confirmation, Ritual/confirmation_1.shtml. Retrieved February 4, 2017. 15 Glossary of Terms. May 28, 2020. 1 Standards of Care for the Health of Transsexual, Transgender, and Gender Nonconforming People, version 7, did_files/140/files/standards%20%20care%2c%20v7%.
biological weapons capable of wiping out life on Earth. So I see two trends in the world today. The first trend is toward a multicultural, scientific, tolerant society. And everywhere I go, I see aspects of that birth. For example, what is the internet? Many people have written about the internet, billions and billions of words written